Thanks for tuning in for another episode of our series of CIRP's mental health webinars. Enjoy and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly mental health webinar. My name is Nicole and I am the Program Assistant for Construction Rehab. I'll be running this webinar in the background, so let me just point out a few things to orientate everyone. On the screen is a little orientation to this platform. On the left is what the platform looks like on a laptop, and on the right is what it looks like on a mobile device. The first thing to notice is that there is a chat. On the laptop, you can simply type and press enter, while on the mobile version, you first tap the chat button and then type. Tapping the chat button again will minimize the chat. The next thing to notice is the Ask a Question button. On the mobile version, you may have to scroll to the right to see the Ask a Question button, depending on how large your screen is. Click or tap the button and you can type in and ask a question. Please remember that the questions, like the chat, are public, so anything you say will be available to everyone. Because the questions are public, once questions are asked, you can also upvote and downvote questions that you would like answered. I will be monitoring the Ask a Question section, so vote for the questions you want answered. Lastly, there is a poll button. If you click on the poll button, you can see that there are a few polls set up already. There may be a few more set up throughout the crowdcast. Please cast your votes during the webinar. Again, on the mobile devices, you may have to scroll to the right to find the polls button. Click or tap on the button and you can vote in the polls. Once you've voted, click or tap the polls button again to close the polls. That's all for now. The presenters will now take it away.
Thank you so much, Nicole. My name is Lindsay, and I am the Outreach Coordinator for the BC Centre for Women in the Trades. It's BCCWITT, and that's in a partnership of women from the trades and industry and labour, committed to creating a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the trades and other underrepresented sectors. Vicky, could you tell us about construction rehab?
Absolutely. Hi, my name's Vicky Waldron. I'm the Executive Director of Construction Rehab. For those of you who are new, Construction Rehab is a mental health and substance use program offered by the unionised sector of the industry. It's available to all BC Building Trades members and all CLRA members as well. Not only is it available for members themselves, it's available to your family members as well. So if you have a family member who's struggling with mental health or substance use issues, we can help them too. The program itself, we provide mental health counselling, substance use counselling, we provide residential treatment, pretty much anything to do with supporting the industry. We also do training for the industry as well. So we go out and we train the industry, employers, union reps, etc. On mental health issues.
That's really great. Thanks for telling us about it. So before we start, please just make sure that you know that both CIRP and BCCWITT are here to support you, and we want to make sure that we can help you maintain positive mental health. And so we have polls as part of this webinar, and you can also use the chat feature to send us questions and ideas and comments, and you can ask questions as well, and that'll come through and we can try to answer those through the webinar. So today's topic is attitude of gratitude. Vicky, what is the attitude of gratitude?
Fantastic, isn't it? I love that. It's so catchy, the attitude of gratitude. And to be honest with you, it's just that, it's an attitude. So gratitude is an emotion. It's an emotion that we have as human beings when we have an appreciation for something, an appreciation for something that we have. It's also a recognition of the fact that it's independent of value. So true appreciation of something doesn't really take into account the fact that it has monetary value or that it's valuable because it's expensive. It really is about the value of that thing inherently. It's something that's spontaneously generated from inside ourselves. It's an affirmation of goodness. It's kind of saying, this is what's good in my life. Gratitude is something that's incredibly important. it's been shown time and time again in research to be positively correlated with happiness. So basically, the more what that means is the more gratitude you feel and express, and that's something we'll talk about as well. So the more gratitude you feel and express, the higher your happiness is. The less you feel, the less the happiness. So there's this very strong positive correlation that happens with gratitude. We also know, believe it or not, that people that express a lot of gratitude in their lives, they have better physical health as well. Not only do they have better physical health, there's actually long-lasting impacts of this as well. We also know that not only there's physical health, but it also improves psychological health as well. It works because one of the reasons that researchers have found that gratitude works so well, and why it boosts physical health, why it helps with or improves psychological health, is because somebody is present and active in their own lives. Because in order to be grateful for something, you have to be present here and now. All of the mental health issues that we sometimes talk about, the negative mental health issues, and certainly in some of the sessions we've done in previous weeks here, we've talked about depression and anxiety. All those things require you not to be present right now. In the way that those anxiety works, for example, anxiety, for that to exist, it requires you to be thinking about the future in some way. You have to be thinking about the future. And so gratitude's the complete opposite of that. So it requires you to be present here and now, which is the complete opposite of anxiety. And that is part of the reason why it works so well for improving psychological health. By valuing and appreciating friends, oneself, situations and circumstances, it focuses your mind on what you have now rather than what you don't have. And that's pretty much how it works.
And what is something that people can do if they're having a hard time recognizing the things in their lives that they could be showing gratitude for?
So there's a number of strategies that someone can use. So what I can talk about here is we call it cultivating gratitude.
I like that.
So yeah, and so why that's and the reason we say cultivating gratitude is because gratitude is probably one of the very, very few things in psychology that we know that is really easy to fake it till you make it. That's not usually a technique that works in psychology, but this is one of them. Gratitude is definitely one of those fake it till you make it types of constructs. It's been shown to work in that way. So what you can do for someone that wants to start cultivating gratitude, you can do a gratitude journal. That's quite common. A gratitude journal is when you actually, and it's one of the things that we do on the program, and a lot of our counsellors will ask our clients to do that. And that is the who, what and why. So what you're doing is you're writing down and you're noting what you're grateful for. And so what this does is, by going through the actions of actually thinking consciously, again, remember, gratitude comes from being in the moment. So if you have to think about who you're grateful for, what you're grateful for, why you're grateful for that, and that's really important. Thinking about the why, it forces you to think about being present and now. And so you write that down, what you're grateful for. It helps you to remember that even when you're having hard times, there's still good things going on in your life. Gratitude is one of those things that it starts to squeeze out the negative thoughts. This is something that we call in psychology and neuroscience, we call it neuroplasticity. And what that is where there's parts of the brain that you can actually start to develop. There's neural networks that start to form. So the way that you think is the way that your brain is hardwired. So when we, how many times have you heard that expression, oh, my brain's wired to think this way, or, it's hardwired in a certain way. Well, that's neuroplasticity, is when you can start changing some of the ways that your brain is hardwired. You can literally change the way your brain's wide together, which means you can start changing the way that you think. The other thing you can do is really use positive words again, and I love this because it's not often that you can, again, in psychology, you can just fake it till you make it, but this works. There's a lot of research that tells us that when we use positive words, it actually changes the neurochemistry of our brain. Like, it's fantastic. Wow. Just by using positive words. And we also know that people that have anxiety and depression, for example, they tend to naturally or automatically use more negative words without even realizing it. So when we start to change that, when we consciously use more positive words, we change the neurochemistry of the brain. The other thing people can do is show appreciation. So the fact that you are, again, even if it doesn't come from the heart initially, it works. It absolutely works because it has this knock-on effect. So if you're appreciating somebody, or you're telling them, giving them a compliment, I might say, Lindsay, I really appreciated the help you gave me yesterday when I was struggling to get online, for example. I appreciated Nicole's help this morning. What that does, it kind of, offering that gratitude changes how we feel about a situation. So, it's hard to feel very grumpy about something when I'm actually saying, I appreciate you doing this for me. And what that does in turn, it has this knock-on effect, because now I've told Lindsay, I've said, Lindsay, I really appreciate your help. Lindsay goes, oh, that feels really good. Right, brings a smile to your face. So what happens is her attitude shifts, and then she's more likely to be more appreciative of somebody else that's going around her. So it does have this lovely knock-on effect. And again, this isn't just anecdotal. We know that this works. There's evidence that shows us this. And the other thing is, and perhaps the last thing I like to talk about when I talk about attitude of gratitude, is make lemonade. Not literally. So when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So one of the things, again, we do a lot of this on the program. We often ask clients to kind of say, okay, well, this is the perspective you have. Can you turn that around, right? What can you learn from this thing that happened, this bad thing that happened? What can you learn from it? How can I prevent this negative thing happening again? Or how can I have a different reaction next time? And kind of looking at things that happen as an opportunity. Again, that tends to lend itself to gratitude, and gratitude in turn has lots and lots of physiological effects. So I can actually kind of talk about some of those. We know that one of the benefits of gratitude in research is your social network. We know that people that show appreciation or practice gratitude have a larger social network than people that don't. And when we talk about this, you'll probably go, well, yeah, that makes sense. And it's all so very obvious, but it's that practice, making sure that we actually practice that every day. We know, for example, there's research that shows that if in a work setting, if you show appreciation, even if you don't in your gut level feel it, but you verbalize it. Remember, fake it till you make it, right? So even if you just say to a co-worker in the work setting, I really appreciate what you did here, and you name what it is, what happens is that research tells us that more job opportunities become available. Your things start to happen at work. So if you're looking to get promoted, start showing gratitude. It really does work. We know that there's physical benefits to showing gratitude. There's studies that show that people that practice gratitude lowered their rates of depression by 25% just by practicing gratitude. And I tell you, this is the one that really floors me, is that people that show gratitude will halve their lifetime risk of depression. You'll halve it. So these are people that are at risk populations, So if we look at our construction sector, for example, I would argue that women in construction are an at-risk population for depression because of the fact that they're so marginalized. But again, research tells us that if people practice that gratitude, you actually reduce that risk by 50%. Which is, again, phenomenal. we know it increases resilience to suicidality. We know it lowers blood pressure, even under stress. So if we put you in a stressful situation, if you routinely practice gratitude, your blood pressure will remain quite low. And again, this is hard numbers. We know this in evidence. It improves immune function, it improves your kidney functioning. And overall, people that practice gratitude have been shown to attend to their physical health more better than people that don't. In terms of psychological health, we know that, again, as I was saying earlier, what happens with when you're practicing gratitude is your brain can't simultaneously be mad at something and appreciate it, right? So you just can't physically do that. And I always say this to my clients. I'll say, try and be mad and appreciative at the same time. Go. And people can't do that. It's just not something that happens. And so if you're practicing gratitude, you're actually pushing out, you're making less space for those negative thoughts. You're making less space for feelings of resentment and anger and regret. And you actually increase those feelings of happiness. We know that there's a brain center there's a center in the brain that where gratitude is located. So we know that it's something that's really physiological for us as well. The more people practice gratitude, it actually has a measurable increase in grey matter in the brain. And also, again, that comes back to that neuroplasticity that I was talking about. And those neural networks that start to form, what we find is that they start to connect to what we call the bliss centers, or the reward centers in the brain. So what that means is as the more gratitude you practice, the less stress hormones are produced in your body. So you get less cortisol, which is the main stress chemical in the body. And what you actually get is an increase in dopamine and an increase in serotonin. And these are really the feel-good chemicals. These are the chemicals that we want, right? So these are the ones that make us feel better, and they drive us to kind of motivate us to do more healthier things. And so when we practice gratitude, those neural networks to those centers of the brain start to improve and develop. The other thing that which I find really fascinating is that the research shows us that practicing gratitude has the same effect as antidepressant medications. Like that, for me, I just think, wow. Like I personally, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't particularly like taking medications. And of course, unfortunately, antidepressants are highly stigmatized as well. So if you're one of those folks that just doesn't want to be taking antidepressants, the practice of expressing gratitude has, in some studies, has shown that it has the same effect as people that take antidepressants. So gratitude is fantastic.
And actually, it's interesting that you're talking about, this is amazing. I love everything you just told us. And from my own experience, I've been doing cognitive behavior therapy to work on my struggles with anxiety. And that's actually where I first learned about gratitude journaling. Because it's something that is suggested as part of a CBT program to sort of ground yourself and to stop your mind from running away, is to focus on 3 things that you feel grateful for. So I love that it's not just about depression, but it can actually help with so many different parts of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's gratitude journaling. You'll be surprised at just how much of an impact it can make. And you can definitely speak to that. Clients will often tell us, this is all kind of, it's airy-fairy, why we're doing this is, how's this going to change anything? But you'd be surprised at just how much it can help. And if there's only one thing you do, I would say 2 things I'd recommend. If you can't do any of the other stuff that we've talked about, fake it till you make it. Again, the fact that this is, it's one of the few things in psychology where you can actually fake it till you make it. So I think that's fantastic. And the other thing is just that gratitude journaling, you know, the who are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Why are you grateful for? Why are you grateful for it, I should say.
So Vicky, I have a question.
Okay.
So you say that a bunch of clients are unwilling to embrace the things that they're grateful for. How can you encourage someone to do this if they think it is kind of airy-fairy?
That's a great question. So we're kind of going into a different psychological topic now, but it depends on what you're really saying by how can you convince someone. So if we're talking about resistance, you know, one of the things we do in psychology is when someone resists what you're trying to offer is to stop offering it. I know that sounds counterintuitive. That sounds like, well, how on earth are they going to do what I want them to do if you stop doing it? It actually works. So what I would be doing is not telling someone to do this. I'd actually talk about the benefits of it. So it's when you tell someone to do something, that's when they tend to say, no, I'm not doing it, because they have to take a stand, right? They have their own thoughts around whatever it is. They have their own beliefs around it. So we in psychology, we never, if someone is not willing to do something, we never tell them to do it. It's the quickest way for them to not do it, right? You just cement their beliefs around it. So we try to, don't tell them what to do, but maybe talk about the benefits without telling anyone that they have to do it. Does that answer the question, Nicole?
Yep. Thank you.
Cool.
One of the other things you mentioned there about the idea of expressing gratitude and how that can help your career. So if you feel like it's a bit too airy-fairy to keep a gratitude journal, then one thing I know that a lot of tradeswomen that in my world have been really successful at is when we are given opportunities for training or being sent to conferences and things like that by our unions or by other organizations in our communities, sending thank you notes after being given those sorts of opportunities. It sounds like such a sort of just a rote sort of thing that you would just do is like, okay, well, you know, and so just, but sending a thank you note to an organization, I have heard again and again from tradeswomen of, oh yeah, no, that's why they sent me to the conference again the next year, is because I sent them a thank you note the first year, and you know, I got a quick email saying, hey, thanks, that was really nice. Because it does, even if you're doing it, and that's the whole thing of faking it till you make it, even though if you actually had a terrible time at that conference or something like that, if you just say, like, express gratitude to so it doesn't even have to be to a specific person, but to an organization, even if you feel like that organization has otherwise not been very supportive of you, it gets you in that mindset of feeling like you are being given opportunities, and then you start to seek those opportunities a bit more.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. And you know, it really is that knock-on effect. Even if you don't feel gratitude, just expressing it really, again, it opens up those doors. And it's almost like, I always feel that the attitude to gratitude in psychology is really one of those situations where it makes common sense. We kind of know it, but we now have the science that backs it up, the evidence that says this does work. And faking it till you make it is not something you can do in many elements. You know, you can't fake not being depressed, right? You can't fake not having anxiety, but you can definitely fake having gratitude, and you get the impacts of it. You know, one of the interesting studies that I was looking at was that when you fake it, even when you fake it, the neurochemistry in the brain changes. Even when they didn't, you know, the folks that were being tested, and they were saying, well, did you really feel that? Well, not really. But when they expressed it, it changed the neurochemistry in the brain. So it's actually a very, very powerful tool that you can have in your arsenal. And the other thing that, like, as I said previously, what I really like about this is you can fake it till you make it. And the make it part is that your brain will start wiring itself so that you will automatically you'll see the good things in your life, whereas you may not now. So I think when people struggle with depression and anxiety or other issues or negative health issues, it's very difficult to see, as you look around, to see the sunshine in things. It's very difficult to do that. And again, that's not because people are, just miserable or, all those negative words that we hear, or they're just a miserable person, or that person's always grumpy. It's not because of that. It's because the chemistry that's going on in the brain, your brain doesn't pay attention to. It's actually designed not to pay attention to all the good things. It's designed at that point to look for all the bad things. And so when you practice gratitude, we can start changing that. It flips. And so what happens is our brain starts to rewire itself, so it ignores the negative and actually focuses on the positive. And so again, that fake, and I can't say it enough, that fake it till you make it ends up having some very, very concrete changes in the brain, so that you start to naturally see, your brain will shift its focus where it will start to see all the good things that are going on for you.
Well, and even if your gratitude journal is something as simple as a running tab of notes you keep on your notes app on your phone, or on your calendar app on your phone, of just 1 or 2 things, 3 things each day you're grateful for, then when you come to do that at the end of the day, on a day when you are just feeling so depressed and anxious that you're just like, ugh, you can flip back through the other ones and think, oh yeah, a week ago I actually just put down my dog. And you actually have a record, and you have those reminders, and that can actually help you in that moment when you really don't feel like you have it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Because it's actually letting your past self help your current self, so you are able to build those solutions for yourself.
Absolutely. And being able to switch that point of view and to look for something else in that, there's huge benefits. I'm very interested in hearing if anybody in the audience has actually practiced gratitude and what their experience of this has been like. So if you have, I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to have a quick kind of hear your point of view on it. Nicole, do we have any other questions?
We don't have any other questions from the audience at the moment, but we do have a response that one of our audience members has had experience with the attitude to gratitude, and she practices gratitude daily, which is very good to hear. Cool,
that's awesome. So people are aware of this, and people are able to, this is something that's, I don't think the attitude of gratitude is actually a new phenomenon for people. I think this is something that people are aware of. And I think generally we know that this is something that can be beneficial for us. But I think what I'm hoping is that understanding that there's actually science behind it, and the fact that it doesn't have to come naturally to somebody, or it doesn't have to come instinctively to somebody, is useful for people watching today. And that is to really, that you can, again, fake it till you make it. I love that, because I know that a lot of the work that we do in psychology normally takes a lot of effort. You've got to practice. We often talk about new skills being like a muscle that you have to start developing, and you have to start pumping up and really getting the hang of it before you start to see the effects. This is one of the reasons I love it, is it's so rare for us to have something that you can just practice, and in that minute you change the chemistry, the chemistry for you in that moment. That's one of the. In fact, I challenge everybody today who's watching to once you finish watching this webinar, I would ask everybody to sit down and write down 3 things: who you're grateful for, what you're grateful for, and why. There you go. A challenge out for our audience today.
I love it. That's wonderful. And we'll extend that via the Facebook event too. I'll make sure that we put that in the follow-up comments on there, so that people can also accept that challenge in the wider world.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm just cautious of the time here, so I would like to say thank you to Lindsay and Vicky for the conversation. I'm going to remind everyone to vote in the polls before we close the window. And you'll see on the bottom of your page, there's a please click on the link or check out the Facebook event for more info link. So if you click on that, you'll be redirected to our Facebook page where you can find more information and resources from our talk today. So thank you everyone for coming, and join us again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. for another conversation about mental health. Be safe and well. Goodbye.
See you next week.
If you liked our video and you want to see more like it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.